Time for my top 10 of 2022. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books, and welcome back to the channel. Happy holidays. I don't know which one we're doing first, but we just also did the Stephen King ranking of 2022. Check that out as well. This year, I do not want to have negativity, so I am not doing a least favorite books of the year. Just something that Danielle and I decided that we were just not going to do this year. So if you want to actually know them, message me on Instagram, I guess, if you really want to know. But otherwise, I'm going to do a top 10. The guidelines typically are, I keep them as no King books, no like graphic novels, no manga, no whatever. It's just top 10 novels. I broke one of those rules this year, and you'll see what I mean towards the end. And if you know what it is, good on you. There's a reason why it's where it's at. So I got 10 books here, all different genres. We'll have them linked down below if you want to check any of them out. Also, don't forget to check out Danielle's channel, the podcast, all the other stuff that we have going on down there. Take a look at it because it'd be awesome if you did. And also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And let's end the year with the top 10 list. Okay, we're going to do this from number 10 to number 1. I do not have an honorable mention. That sounded weird coming out of my mouth. I do not have an honorable mention. It's just straight up top 10. So the first book up, which is in the 10 spot, is The Neighbors by K. Lucas. This was recommended by a viewer, Scott. It was also sent to me by him. This book was a really big surprise for me. I really did not... I expected it to be good because it was suggested by somebody, and he usually has got some really good suggestions for me, so thank you, Scott. You might actually have one more in here that you suggested. I have no idea. But this book was really solid. This is about a woman and her husband who moved to this town to try and be secluded and like not be disturbed by people, while simultaneously there's like this, I think it was it's like a mom killer kinda, like somebody who's got kids just going around and killing the mom while the dad's gone or whatever. There's a really good plot twist in this. The town itself is just like really weird, really creepy, and it's like a really nice thriller, suspense, horror type novel. I really enjoyed it. I gave it, all these books, I believe, are all 5 stars. Yeah, I think all these I ended up giving 5 stars. Possibly. I don't remember. Check out Goodreads. That's also down below. Or if it's not marked on Goodreads, just take my word for it. Most of these are 4 or 5 stars. Maybe even 4.5. But The Neighbors by K. Lucas. Very solid story. Very interesting concept. And a very solid twist at the end. So, The Neighbors by K. Lucas at number 10. In 9th place, this has sat with me all year long. This was the very first video I posted this year. The very first book I read this year was a banger. The Maid by Nita Prose. This book has been sitting here waiting to go on this top 10 list since it was the first book I read this year. And honestly, this book was going to be the honorable mention, and then I realized I needed to get King off of this list. And I actually remember this book being a lot better than The Neighbors. I gave it 5 stars. So this woman, Molly, is a maid at a hotel. And when she goes into this room, there's a dead body. She's initially the suspect, and everyone's kind of pointing the finger at her. And it's not the case. I did a reading vlog with this. Let's see, there was a... She struggles with social skills, and she's kind of an oddball. But I really, at the beginning of the book, I did kind of say it was a little bit quirky and a little bit like... whatever, she's weird, and at the end I was like, oh, that quirkiness like works, and it's like really cool, and completely changed my opinion of Molly as a character, and I really, really like this book. Lots of twists. It's a thriller book. It's really cool. I really did enjoy this book, and I think this was actually a 2022 release in January. Yeah. Really cool book. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's trying to figure out the murder. It's a whodunit kind of thing, and I really liked it. So there you have The Maid by Nita Prose in 9th place. All right, coming in 8th place, we have Upgrade by Blake Crouch. So this was a science fiction book. I had a science fiction in my top 10 last year with Project Hail Mary, and that book is going to sit with me for a fat minute. That book was really good. But I do have one in here that definitely is better. This was a July 2022 Book of the Month pick. It's about this guy, what is his name? Logan. And basically what happens is there's this incident that happens, and he basically gets like these weird things into his body, and he becomes like a superhuman. Like he can just do all these really cool things. He's faster, his memory is a heck of a lot better. He remembers things that he never even got taught, and he just knows. And he has a sister, and she has the same ability. And their mother was a lead scientist in something, and I think it was Africa. I believe that's where it was, but they released all these things to make people smart like they are when they were way younger in the past. And it killed everybody. And so the mom was like exiled and crap like that. And like it's a family like fight. Like the brother wants it to stop. The sister's like, no, we got to keep going with her work. And there's this big feud. It's like two superhumans fighting each other, but not like Superman. They're just like really, really smart. They usually think a couple steps ahead of each other, so some things get thrown off. It's a really good book and a really good story. I do have another one that I wanted to read by her, or by Blake Crouch, and I don't remember what it was. Recursion, I think, is the other one. A lot of people say Recursion's a good one. But still, really solid book, and I really enjoyed it. 8th place, Upgrade, Blake Crouch. All right, coming in 7th place, probably the most I do have a more disturbing book this year, but it was not good. Probably the most disturbing book this year that I read that I liked. Kin by Keelan Patrick Burke. This book is messed up, dude. There is some cannibalistic, wrong turn-esque, like, funky crap that happens in this book, dude. Like, it is out there. This woman escapes these, like, weird strangers and stumbles across this one family, and like the cannibals start following her. It's like Wrong Turn met that one episode of the X-Files where there's that weird cannibal family and they made a baby and like drank a bottle of like bourbon. Like it was just it's a way out there kind of book. It's not for the faint of heart, let me tell you that much. The ending, also very, very, very weird. The last scene is just kind of funny to me. I mean, there's nothing else really to say about it. This woman escapes, she's trying to survive, and people keep trying to help out that know this cannibalistic family, and they finally decide to start fighting back, and it was such a really good story. Keelan Patrick Burke is usually the king of like short stories, but this book was out there, dude. It was fantastic. It was freaky. I would highly recommend this book, but just be wary. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not. But yeah, it's a very good book. Really enjoyed it. So in seventh place, Keelan Patrick Burke. All right, just narrowly missing the top 5. Coming in at number 6 is The Wanderers by Chuck Wendig. So I finally read this book this year, and it was good. A lot of people compared it to The Stand. I got those vibes. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid story. Basically, there are 2 types of people in the world now. There is, I want to say there's sleepwalkers. What's the term they use for them? There's sheep. No, it's not sheep. There's the flock, and then there are the shepherds. So basically, the shepherds are the people who are awake and they can still do things like normal. And then like the sheep or the flock is a group of people who are sleepwalking, and they can't control what they're doing. They're just like eyes are open, but they're just walking. You can't stop them. Early on in the book, someone tries to stop one of them, puts them in a cop car. The guy just blows up, just blood all over the place. And that's the main thing, is you can't stop them. You stop them, they basically just die. they have like this weird like seizure panic attack. They start screaming, blood starts coming out of their eyes and nose, and it gets real bad. But just like in The Stand, there's good versus evil. There are the people who want to stop the flock from doing what they're doing, and then there are those who are wanting to follow them, make sure that, you know, things go well. And those are usually the family members. Shayna is the main girl we're following, along with a priest, a like kind of retired rock star. I guess not really retired, but he's not really doing too well. A religious radio host and a scientist kind of guy. So there's like 4 or 5 main people we're following. It's a really solid story. Again, in my King ranking, I mentioned this with Under the Dome. There's a lot happening, so it kind of throws me off. Again, that's just one of my weak points. So, I mean, I still really like the premise, and there is a sequel. It's called Wayward. I do have it, and I want to read it. This was released in November last month, I think it was. But it's a really solid book. This one was. I want to read Wayward. It's a great book. I would definitely recommend it. This was recommended to me by somebody who works at Barnes & Noble, because I told them I was a King fan, and they're like, yeah, The Stand, Wanderers, it's like the same thing. Read it. And I was... Honestly, I need to reread The Stand, but that might be October 2023. Wink, wink. Yeah. Coming in 6th place, Wanderers, Chuck Wendig. All right, top 5 territory. My 5th favorite book of the year, Hidden Pictures by Jason Reculach. Still have no idea if I'm saying his name right. Probably not. This book really hit different. I did a reading vlog on this book. The initial thoughts I had on this book were, it was okay. Then I more sat on it, and I'm like, this is a actual, like, really good book. I think I actually gave it, like, 4 stars in the actual video I did, but it's a 5-star book. This woman is a recovering drug addict, I think it is, and she gets this job as a nanny. She had to lie her way into it, kinda, which is annoying. And basically she's like telling them she's like this star athlete. I forget what college it was, but she's got like a degree to go there, and she's lying to the family. The dad's kind of like weird at first. The mom's all peppy and like, yeah, I love you. You know, we'll take you. You know, you got the job. And they have a son. I can't think. Theo. Teddy. I knew it was a T. I just get confused because of Take Your Turn, Teddy. And
our nephew is Theo.
Yeah, so confusion happens. Danielle's behind the camera, by the way. But yeah, Teddy. This book has so many twists, and I gotta say, the last probably 100 or so pages, 150 pages, a lot of shit happens. Like, it's crazy. Like, all the things get revealed, the truth about, like, the family comes out, like, all this weird stuff happens. So Teddy's got this weird imaginary friend, and he draws these really, really artistic pictures that are vivid and, like, describing a murder scene. And the nanny's freaking out about it, and the parents are just like, leave him alone, don't worry about it. Or, no, they think she's the one who's doing it. And it's like, no, this is your kid. And they're like, nah, Teddy's like 6, he can't do this. And, he is the one doing it. And it's such a good story. I really enjoyed this book. Danielle really liked this book. I would definitely say it's probably in her top 10, I would guess. Probably not. I don't know. She's not listening anymore. Really solid book. I really enjoyed it. 5th place, Hidden Pictures, Jason Reculach. Still don't know if I'm saying his last name right. All right. Coming in 4th place. So my top 4 here, they're all really good books. I'm just going to go. I'm not going to flip and explain this. Number 4, Daisy Darker, Alice Feeney. So this was in Danielle's top 5. She's doing a video on her channel. Check it out. Also, the next book is also on her top 5. This was a fantastic book. There is only one thing about this book I really hated, and there's one scene that happened in the book. If you've read this book, you know the scene. It's when Daisy's a little kid. So Daisy's got this issue with her heart. She has died a couple of times, like her heart just stops, but it gets restarted. And we're following her and like a reunion. Her grandma is dying. I think it's her 80th or it's 88th. I think it's her 80th. Yeah, her 80th birthday. and she was told by a gypsy or one of those fortune teller people, whatever, that she's going to die on her 80th birthday. So the whole family comes into town, and a lot of sus people, a lot of people who are really annoying. And Nana dies, and people try to figure out, okay, is there a killer in the house? Okay, yeah, so there's two sisters, both of them older. Daisy's the younger one. There's the weird family friend, I think his name was Connor.
Yeah.
How the hell did I remember that? So there's the family friend named Connor, had an abusive father, and basically was like adopted into like the darker family, basically. And the two older sisters, I don't remember their names, but I remember Connor. Of course I do. One of them is married, has got a kid. The niece is a really cool character. I like her. She's really awesome. Like I said, there's only one thing. I gave this 5 stars ultimately. There's only one thing in this book I didn't like, and it was towards the end of the book. It wasn't the plot reveal. It was like, oh gosh, I just hate it. If you've read this book, you might know what I'm referring to. If you don't, message me on Instagram or whatever and ask me, because Danielle knows the beef I have with it, but it's just depressing. Anyway, Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney coming in at number 4. Alright, in third place. This book, when I read it, I initially thought was going to be Book of the Year, but I thought about it, and I thought that'd be a cop-out of putting it at number 1. So it's at number 3, and that is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This was a really solid book. It's a really solid movie. I wish I had read the book before I read the movie. I wish I had read the book before I had watched the movie. I can't read a movie. But it was a really solid story. Basically, we're following the Dunn family, Nick and Amy. Amy is the author of like the Amazing Amy series, and Nick, I think he was a writer, but he's kind of like really struggling. If you've seen this movie, then I would definitely recommend reading the book. Or if you've read this book, I'd highly recommend reading, or fuck man, I can't say watching. I would highly recommend watching the movie. I can't talk. 5 stars. It was such a good story. Basically, Amy is presumed murdered and is like, the body's missing. Nick is the main suspect. Nobody thinks it's anybody else. And the plot twist about halfway through this book, perfect. It is fantastic. If you've seen the movie, obviously you know what it is. If you have not read this or seen the movie, it's a pretty darn big plot twist. And if you have not read this book by now, I highly recommend it, because it is a really solid book. So read it. Yeah, there's not much else really to say. I mean, because this whole book about from halfway on is just going to be a spoiler. So I really can't say anything else about this book. Just know it's really solid. I absolutely loved it. It was a great book. I finally am glad we decided to read it. Danielle read it. I think she gave it 5 stars too. Was going to be one of her favorites. But yeah, really good book. So Gone Girl, Gillian Flynn, coming in at number 3. So coming in at number 2, These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. This is probably a big surprise for a lot of people. But if you have... I don't even remember when I read this. This was January or February? This was early on in the year. This book was so good. It surprised me how good it was. Like, Cooper and Finch. Those are the 2 people that we're following in the northern Appalachian woods. Basically, like, they're on the run. They're trying to, like Cooper's trying to protect Finch. And so many things happen in this book. There's a huge sacrifice towards the end of the book that like really makes it sad and really hits home. It was just really good. It's not that long of a book either. It's really, really short. Like it's only like 200 pages, 100-something pages. Yeah, 200-something pages. But basically, Cooper and Finch are on the run. There's not that many people who really know. There's a guy named Jake, if that's the old friend. And basically, Jake is the person who brings them supplies every year. And one year, he doesn't show up. He dies. he's old, and you know, he passed away, and obviously now Cooper and Finch have to go out and get their own supplies, and he's in hiding, and so he can't really show his face, and there's all these really cool things that happen in this book. It's sad. The ending is pretty sad. It's happy for, you know, one reason, but it's sad for another. I highly recommend reading this book. It is so good. It took me by surprise, and it would be number one if it wasn't for one book. So, second place, These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. Okay, so earlier I mentioned I had parameters for my top 10, and I said that I broke one of my parameters because this book was so good. And here it is, my all-time favorite book of 2022, 11/22/63. I just did this in my Stephen King ranking of 2022. It was number one. There should have been no surprise once I got to Gone Girl and These Silent Woods what number one was going to be. This was a fantastic book. Like 10 out of 5 stars. Like it's so good. Guy goes back in time to try and stop JFK assassination. I can't stop thinking about this book. It's so good. I talk about it more in the reading vlog I did and in the Stephen King ranking video that I did. Again, I don't know which one's going to go up first, this or the Stephen King. I think King's going to be up before this one. If it is, check it out up there, or the 11/22 reading vlog. Check it out up here, or we'll link it down below. Whatever. Check them out. It's such a good book. And I thank you all who recommended this book to me. I finally decided to read it, and I did, and so good. Perfect book. So, my all-time favorite book of 2022, 11/22/63 by Stephen King. Alright guys, so that is my top 10 favorite list of 2022. Again, I am not doing a least favorite this year. I just don't feel the need to do that. I don't like talking about bad books. So, but yeah, let me know your favorites down below, whether you want to do a top 3, 5, 10. Just don't list every single book in order that you read this year, whatever. Yeah, also down below, don't forget to check out the podcast, Danielle's channel, because she's got a top 5 and an honorable mention or something like that coming out for the year 2022. And yeah, awesome year. Definitely did not hit the reading goals that I had set, but that's neither here nor there. So, thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of 2022. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Later.